صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. On behalf of the Muslim Youth Connection, we invite you to our Shahr Ramadan program. Inshallah, this month is filled with countless blessings for you and your families. Before we begin, I just have a few announcements to make. The first one is the summer retreat. The retreat is from June 27th through the 30th. The cost is $250 and we welcome ages 18 to 30. The retreat is filled with recreation, spiritual enlightenment, and a lot of fun. So if you're interested in registering, we just opened registration today, so you guys can visit the NYC table right outside. The second announcement that we have is we are partnering with Dearborn High School for an Eid toy drive. So all throughout the month we are collecting toys for the children in our community. We have boxes outside that you guys can put toys in. The third announcement that we have is that we are also partnering with Zaman International for our 30 Days of Giving. We will be collecting food items, and you guys can put them in the box outside as well. The last announcement that I have is that we are still looking for a sponsor for this event. The money will go towards, the Muslim Youth Connection, and it will help us put on these wonderful events for you guys. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Brother Mustafa for some Quran recitation. So please help me welcome him to the podium with a loud salawat.
أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كافها يا عين صاد. ذكر رحمة ربك عبده زكريا إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا قال رب إني وهن العظم مني واشتعل الرأس شيبا ولم أكن بدعائك رب شقيا وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي وكانت امرأتي عاقرا فهب لي من لدنك وليا يرثني ويرث من آل يعقوب واجعله رب راضيا يا لم نجعل له من قبل سميا قال رب أنى يكون لي غلام وكانت امرأتي عاقرا وقد بلغت من الكبر عتيا قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين وقد خلقتك من قبل ولم تك شيئا قال رب اجعل لي آية قال آيتك ألا تكلم الناس ثلاث ليال سويا فخرج على قومه من المحراب فأوحى إليهم أن سبحوا بكرة وعشيا يا يحيى خذ الكتاب بقوة وآتيناه الحكم صبيا وحنانا من لدنا من لدنا وزكاة وكان تقيا صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة تسبقها الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you, Brother Mushba, for that beautiful recitation. Please help me welcome our speaker for tonight, Sheikh Aous, with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
I think they have to put a little stool for me, because mashallah, Brother Mustafa is very tall. Okay, صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. ثانية على حب الحسن والحسين. ثالثة على حب فاطمة الزهراء بأعلى أصواتكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا صلوات. واللعنة الدائمة الأبدية على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم وقوله الحق. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Holy Quran, and what he says is the truth. In the chapter of Al-Fajr, chapter 89, verses 15 and 16, Allah says, وَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَبْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمني وأما إذا ما ابتلاه وقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانني. صدق الله العلي العظيم. آمنا بالله. Brothers and sisters, in this beautiful verse, these two verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and as for mankind, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases the prosperity and sustenance for this human being, what does he say? He says, God has graced me. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tries him, not with prosperity, but rather by tightening the noose on the sustenance, decreasing his sustenance, what does he say? He says, God has humiliated me. Sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So today's lecture I entitled Me Emotionally Hijacked? Really? Today our lecture is about emotions. Because we've been talking about the intellect a lot, right? We've spoken about the four powers, we've spoken about the qalb, we've spoken about the nafs. Today I'd really like to address the issue of emotions, because I told you last night that today we want to talk about one of the greatest challenges that we face. And one of the greatest challenges that we truly face are truly our emotions. You know, no matter how smart you are, how much intellectual prowess you have, right? Just a bit of emotion could completely skew your intellectual reasoning, right? And we see many examples of this. Let me give you a simple, quick example. There's a family called the Crabtree family. Interesting name, but this is a true story. And they had a 14-year-old girl called Matilda. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And Matilda had told her parents that she'd be sleeping over at her friend's. So what ends up happening is she decides to April Fools her dad. So she sneaks back into the house, or she doesn't leave the house, she stays in the house. And that night, her parents come back home and they hear sounds in the house. The mother stays outside. The father picks up his gun and he goes into the house to try to figure out where the intruder is. She pops out of the house or out of one of the closets and she says, "Boo!" And he shoots her in the neck and she dies. How could that happen? Right? The fear took over him. Fear is an emotion. Right? We'll look at some more examples. See how dangerous emotions can be. Emotions can be deadly. Right? Say, Sheikhna, emotions aren't all like this. Some emotions are good. Yes, I agree with you. I'm getting there. Right? But I wanted to kind of put an exclamation there. That emotions can be very dangerous. So today we really need to talk about this issue of emotions. And we're going to do so, as we've done in the past, first by looking at emotions logically. What is their purpose? Do we really need them? Right? How can we use them to our benefit? Secondly, we'll look at what the halls of academia say. And then finally, we'll look at what Islam says about emotions. Okay? So let's get started. So logically speaking, we said that obviously when I look at myself, I know that I'm limited. I know that and this entire universe of limitation has to be created by an unlimited creator, because a creator is not limited by his creations. So the creator of all things limited has to be unlimited. So based on that then, I discovered that, you know what? He's all perfect, which means he's all purposeful, this creator. And that also means that I'm worthy because he chose for me to exist. And I know for a fact that everything that I have is a tool, a faculty that he has given me so that I can thank him, because that's his greatest right upon me. Because he deemed me worthy of existing, and he is the unlimited creator. So I have no one to please but him first and foremost. And whomever he tells me to please. Right? That's what the first 4 lectures summed up in a nutshell, right? So now, I say to myself, you know what? I understand the role of the intellect. And I understand that the intellect is talking to that heart, right? And I understand that it has to tame the nafs. It has to tame it. The nafs is like a dragon that needs taming, right? Once I slay that dragon, once I've got it under control, now I can ride it as far as I want. Why? Because it's been tamed by the intellect, right? Because the heart is connected to the intellect so well, because the intellect is constantly talking to it. Through what? Positive self-talk, right? اجعل قلبك قرينا برا وولدا واصلا واجعل علمك والدا تتبعه. Right? Make your heart a close friend. Continue chatting with them, right? Think about it also, this heart as, a family member, like a parent who you're always checking up on. And think about that knowledge as a guide. Like your dad, you always follow him wherever he goes, or your mom. And make sure to know that that nafs is your greatest enemy. Why? Because guess what? That's what's affected by emotion. That's what's affected by emotion. So then, why did God give me emotion? I mean, if this emotion is going to cause me to make the wrong decision, then why did God give me emotion? Remember what we said in the second lecture? When we said in that lecture on self-awareness that we proved the fact that everything that God gives me, He gives me with a purpose. Right? And I know for a fact that it would be unjust if God placed me in this world, created me a certain way, and then ended the world and then punished me. Why? Because He created me bad. Doesn't make any sense. The greatest honor that I could have is for God Himself to say, listen, I'm going to give you a choice. You either choose me or you don't. You choose me, you're rewarded. You don't, you're not. But He gives me that choice. So now, that means that in this world, there are going to be challenges. There are going to be obstacles. Right? And I have to practice, just like I practice on my Xbox, Brother Muhammad Radhan, Brother Ali Akbar. Just like I practice on my PlayStation, right? To perfect that level, Brother Kareem, right? I'll mess up a few times, right? But you know what? I'll get back on there again until I can achieve the highest score, until I can move on to the next level, right? Whether it's Madden, Sayyid Dargham, or Mario Kart. I like Mario Kart. I used to play Mario Kart. Right? The point is that there has to be this constant practice and training, just like a good athlete. And there has to be this muscle memory that occurs. It's in the repetition that you establish the memory. Right? The more you practice talking to your heart, the more you're going to be able to affect it even when you're not talking to it. And so, when in the battlefield, because we already established you're all warriors, right? When in the battlefield against the nafs, what's going to happen? Your muscle memory is going to kick in, right? And this time, your reaction isn't going to be emotional, isn't going to be reactive, it's going to be proactive. Problem solving, right? That's what we said. With initiative. Now, I know that the reason why Remember we said there's that thing that holds all this metaphysicality that I'm made of to this singular physical body, right? And we said that thing is an anchor, and we called it the nafs. It's an anchor that anchors us down to this earth, like gravity. No matter how much we try to soar, it pulls us down. What I have to do is I have to tame it. How do I tame it? I tame it through this self-talk, through this proactivity that I'm going to do. However, I know for a fact that I always sabotage myself. I get on a diet, okay? I'm telling you, I get on a diet, all right? And then I walk down Dollar General, down what? Down the chips aisle, right? And there's that bag of salt and vinegar. Man. Why, oh God, why? Why did they create that bag of chips? Every time I walk past it, Haj Musa, I get weak. Can I tell you, I'm weak. What weakens me is this. It's my emotional connection, my desire, my imagination. I imagine the taste, my taste buds start to water, Haj Musa. You know what I'm talking about? Literally, a chemical reaction occurs because of a memory of a taste. Right? Hormones start being released from my brain. Oh, and I can just imagine that dopamine hit once I taste that chip. Wow. Of course, you guys are all healthy. You don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, I admit I'm addicted to salt and vinegar chips. Yeah, you too? Yeah. My people. Right. So we have to have a, what do you call it, a group. What do you call it? Yeah. Salt and vinegar anonymous. Yeah. Yeah, but I need warriors around me, so we need more support. Right? So there's this, the intellect sees, the eyes see. Actually, one day I remember my daughters were coming into the house from Walmart, and I heard like that. I heard the sound of a bag of chips. I said, oh my God, they better not have. So my daughter Zahra runs up, Baba. I said, what? She says, guess what? I said, no, you didn't. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. What? You know, salt and vinegar. Oh, why did you do this to me? You're supposed to be helping me. I raised you. I put a roof over your head. And now this is how you do me? La hawlillah. Haj Musa, does Batul Noor do that? Do they do that to you too? Sour patches? That's another weakness. So, why is this happening to me? Why am I so weak? Why do I continue to sabotage myself? I recognize then, logically, I say to myself, look, I've got to have a challenge. That challenge, right, to my own perfection is what's going to make me elevate above it. Because you see, I can't get over a hurdle unless I jump. And I can't surpass something unless there's something there to surpass. I can't move up a step unless there is a step. Right? I can't negotiate my way through a jungle if there aren't woods. Right? More sour patches. So I know for a fact that emotions are something that are generated by the effect of those three powers, the imagination, the desire, the anger, on my nafs. It's just a logical necessity. Because there's no other way, that I can explain this emotion of desire, of imagination, of... Don't get me wrong, it's not bad. I'm not saying it's bad, okay? I'm not saying it's bad at all. Brother Muhammad, it's not bad. Why? How do I know that emotion is not bad and the nafs isn't bad? Because we said you can tame the nafs, right? The nafs sure has a tendency to be dragged down. However, you can tame it. How? by that constant self-talk and training and muscle memory that you're going to create. Until it's like that bucking horse, right? That the cowboys get on. And then finally, it's tamed, right? You can tame it, but you have to be patient. And you have to keep practicing, right? So I know it's good because it's part of my challenge in this world. And I know it's good because God gave it to me. And whatever is going to be generated from that nafs, whether it's good or bad, is going to be a function of my decision. It has to be, right? إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. Either thankful or unthankful. So, logically speaking then, I recognize there is a need for emotions because I know that I love. I know that I feel sadness. I know that I feel happy. I know that I desire things. And I know that there are good desires and that there are bad desires. Right, Brother Ali? Right? And I know that if I partake in the bad desires, then I will have made a bad decision and one of those lights that are in my heart will go off. I'll have a spot of darkness. But I know that if I make a good decision on a good desire, then that light is going to go back on and a few more will be turned on, right? So I know it's good. I know that it has to be good, right? But I just have to know how to tame it. That's all. So how am I going to do that? We said by being proactive and by using that cycle that we talked about of initiative, with proactivity, with self-talk, with practicing and muscle memory and getting that. Logical argument done. Okay? It was easy and straightforward. What do the halls of academia say? There's a man by the name of Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman is a journalist. He focuses mostly on science and psychology. He has this book called Emotional Intelligence, which has really become one of the most important books when it comes to EQ. Okay? Has anybody heard of EQ, emotional intelligence? Before, there used to be a focus mostly on IQ, right? The intelligence quotient. And if you read Kelly McGonigal's book, you'll find that, Carol Dweck in her book Mindset, you'll find that she speaks about the IQ test, the intelligence quotient, and how initially it was actually created in France. And it was specifically by French educators to test the French education curriculum. Okay? You'll appreciate that, Hajj Musa, since you're an educator. Now, what ended up happening is other countries ended up adopting that intelligence quotient test. But it wasn't meant for other curricula around the world. It was meant specifically for that French curriculum. What ended up happening in the US is it got adopted as a standardized test to test intelligence. When really it wasn't meant to test intelligence. It was meant to evaluate how well the students understood the curriculum that they were learning. And there's a huge difference between the two, right? Huge difference. Emotional quotient is different in that it basically tests how you are with people. It's basically what we call street smarts, let's say. Okay? You find someone who's, academically smart, and then you find someone else who's just street smart, right? One who's not that great in school, but one who's great socially, right? That's the easiest way to explain it. Now, the problem with the IQ is that what we tend to do is by giving someone a grade in their IQ, we're basically telling them this is how you are. Now, if they score high, then they're going to think that they're smart, right? And they have to maintain that social status, really. And then if they score low, we say, خطية مسكين. ما يفهم. It's not very smart, right? And that carries through the rest of the person's life, which is unfortunate. Because that's not what the IQ test was actually meant for. Unfortunately, that's what it ended up being. But Daniel Goleman, from his work, Emotional intelligence, what I really wanted to take wasn't that. I wanted to explain that to you. But one of the things that EQ is about, he specifically mentions that there's two types of intellects in his book. This is why I wanted to mention Daniel Goleman. He says, in the first chapter of his book, he says there's two types of intellects. He says there's a rational intellect or mind, and then there's a emotional intellect or mind. Which is quite interesting. Because he says both are decision makers for us. Okay? Now what's interesting is, there's a scientist by the name of Joseph Ledoux. He's a neuroscientist at NYU. He is a professor in the Neuroscience Center at NYU. And he basically made this amazing discovery. Conventionally speaking, the way that the human mind or brain works is that, and I'm going to use some technical terms here, so I want you to be, open up your ears with me, open up your hearts, take in the information, right? With open chests, inshallah. So we learn something new. Some of you probably already know this, if you're doctors or have studied psychology. But they say that the amygdala is considered to be part of the limbic system, right? And it's considered to be the memory center, learning center, and emotional center of the mind, of the brain. They say the neocortex is considered to be where rationalization occurs. Now, how they know this is they actually removed the amygdala from the brain of a patient who was suffering from seizures. And what they found was that after they removed the amygdala, that person was completely apathetic. He didn't have any sort of emotional expression at all. He didn't feel any emotions towards his family, his own family. Okay? So this is how modern science has been able to define this amygdala. That it's important to our emotions, right? It's almost as though it's the central core, right, of how we develop emotions or how we relate to others. Now what's interesting is that conventionally they say, this is what they thought. They thought that initially, let's say information comes from the eyes and from the ears, okay? When it comes in from the eyes and the ears, it goes to a place in the brain called the thalamus, right? The signal, there's a signal. Oh, I collected information. Information goes through a neuronal pathway to an area called the thalamus. The thalamus sends a signal to the neocortex. What does the neocortex do? It sorts out the information. And it starts to rationalize and analyze, right? Then, if it recognizes that an emotional response is required, then it sends a signal to the amygdala. Very good? Right? You with me so far? Or is it like, it's okay if it's, right? The important part is this, is that this guy, Joseph Ledoux, this neuroscientist, what he discovered is a cluster of neurons, right, between the thalamus and the amygdala. Almost like this cluster that they hadn't discovered or seen before, like a back door to the amygdala, where the thalamus could bypass the neocortex. Sheikhna, dawakhna. What is this stuff? Why are you telling me this stuff? I'll explain to you now. You'll see how relevant it is. Okay? So basically what we're saying is when information comes from the eyes and ears, what happens conventionally, right? The information goes into the brain signals the rational area of the mind to think about stuff. If it needs an emotional response, then where does a signal go? To the amygdala, ahsanti. Right? And the amygdala reacts emotionally. Good? But this guy, this scientist, he discovered that there's a back door. That sometimes what happens is the amygdala hijacks your rational thinking. This is where this information is important to us. Because what ends up happening is instead of that information going to the thalamus, and then from the thalamus to the neocortex. The neocortex takes its time, thinks about it, taps its fingers a little, right? Says, does all this sort of stuff, and has time to be patient and think things out and determine a reaction, right? What happens is, this is the pathway to being reactive. This is the back door. This is why when you see something you don't like that your sibling said, you don't even think. You just say what? And you smack them. Right? Or, you're sitting on the prayer mat and you're Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Astaghfirullah, Rabbi atubu ilayh, right? And then your little sister takes your urs, your turba, and all of a sudden you're like, what the heck's wrong with you? And you run after them, right? You know why? You got emotionally hijacked. You know what hijacked you? Your amygdala. Hate to break it to you. So physically speaking and neuronally speaking, right? There is this pathway that literally hijacks us. Brother, what's your name? Brother Ibrahim. Man. Inshallah, you haven't been hijacked by your amygdala. Happens to me a lot, unfortunately, Ibrahim. What can I tell you? This is why this information was so important to me. Because I just wanted to figure out, why is it that I can't control my reactivity? Right? خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ عَجُولًا. Why is it? Allah, subhanAllah, we'll talk about Islam in a minute. But so I figured then, it's not just the fact that my intellect is weak, and my iman is weak, it's I'm wired that way. We're all wired that way. So what do I do? How do I fix this? So you know how in the logical argument we said that the best way to fix it is to take the example of how an athlete establishes muscle memory, right? You need to strengthen those neuronal pathways, and you need to be able to negotiate with the hijacker. And we all know that negotiating with a hijacker can be very, very difficult, right? Right? Now this is a hijacker you don't see, right? Who are you going to call upon? I mean, my poor intellect is being bypassed here, hormonally speaking. So what I have to do is I have to develop stronger neuronal pathways, recruit new neurons. That's what I have to do. There's no other way. And I have to be mindful before the event happens. So this is what lawyers do. Do we have any lawyers here, by the way? MashaAllah. You think you're a lawyer. No, really. True lawyers. We had a few last night. Okay, so you know what lawyers do before a case? Anybody watch those legal shows? What do they do before a case? They write it all down. What do they write down? All the possible questions that could be asked, right? What are all the answers that we need? What does the jury need to hear, right? They even go through the whole process of jury selection, correct? Right? They do all this prep work. And they keep telling the person, listen, if you're called to the stand, they're going to ask you this. Make sure you don't react. I'm going to ask you. So they keep drilling the person. And the person gets emotional. You've seen it on TV, right? Those, what do you call it? Criminal dramas and legal shows. What's it? Law and Order, right? That show, Law and Order, right? So, or Bull. There's another show called Bull, right? Where the guy is like, he's an expert consultant. It's based on Dr. Phil, that show, as I recall, Right? And what he does is he specifically looks at juries and he determines what affects them and what doesn't and what's their emotional state. And he makes sure that he doesn't get a jury that's reactive, or he wants to get one that's reactive towards his side so that he can win the case. Right? So what do? What they do is they prep. So what do we have to do? We have to prep. We have to think of all the possible scenarios so that if I fall into a scenario that is unfamiliar to me, what do? And I slip, right? I say, well, I didn't practice that one. I missed out on that one. I didn't even think about that one, right? And you see that in the shows too, right? You see that in the shows. They're like, oh, we couldn't have anticipated that. New evidence, right? All of a sudden the tables have turned. So then, what we need to do now is we figure, okay, let's take a look at what Islam says. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I feel like I want to go play with them. So now what does Islam say? Let's review that verse that we started off with. Surah Al-Fajr, verse 89. وَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ. And as for man, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests him, فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَمَهُ. So what does he do? He's generous to him. He's gracious to him. He gives him prosperity, increases his blessings upon him in wealth. فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمَنِي. He says, God, alhamdulillah, right? Now I say, alhamdulillah, I got everything that I want, right? I got a mu'mina wife. I got a Benz. I got I don't know, 2,300 square foot home, right? I got a nice backyard with a pool. Alhamdulillah, I have everything. And then, what happens? I lose my job. And now all of a sudden, why did Allah do this to me? Why? Is there even a God? Yeah. I've heard it myself. I've seen it. Right? The slightest trial. Forget about losing a job. He has his job. Right? Something happens to his daughter. She falls, she breaks her arm. Ya Allah, why did this happen to her? I must have sinned. I must have done something wrong. Allah doesn't love me anymore. Ya khayya, relax. Right? Let me give you another example. So Iraqi dads tend to be very emotional. So generally speaking, what ends up happening is when an Iraqi child falls, right, he's afraid. He's hijacked by his emotions. He's not afraid of the pain. He's afraid of the smack he's going to get from his dad. Don't look at me like that, Mujtaba. Because what will the dad say? He'll say, "Ulak ana mo qult lak la tروح هناك." Did I not tell you not to go there? It's like, but dad. So fear just hijacks you. So what happens when you deal with your parents? You're like, half truth, quarter truth, no truth. I know I should tell the truth. I know God wants the truth of me. But you know what? Truth can be painful sometimes. That last time I told the truth. Ya Musa. But what does Allah say in this verse? He says, look, in both these verses, He starts with وَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ. And as for mankind, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tries him, tests him. In this next verse, verse 16, He says, وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ. And then if He tests him, this time with what? With decreasing his sustenance. So then what? So then it's all test. Right? So now if I know that it's a test, then tests, do they end or no? No? Yeah, they do. Of course they do. Right? Tests end. So then that, at the very least, should make me understand that this is a hurdle that I need to jump over, a step that I have to climb. And based on that, Islam tells me, it's telling me right off the bat, it's saying, listen, look at what you do. Allah is telling you, look at what you do, O mankind. I give you tests, right? This is how you react. Why? Allah says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Oh, solutions right there in the words of Allah. He says, look, this is an open book exam. Aus told you already. He says, look, I'm going to test you with what? بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ, fear. وَالْجُوعِ, hunger. وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ, deficiencies in wealth. وَالْأَنفُسِ, and self. وَالثَّمَرَاتِ, and sustenance. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, and bear glad tidings to those who are patient. Those who walk past the chips aisle. No, I mean, you guys were getting just too serious for me. I'm serious. Yeah, right? It's a test. I just have to walk past the aisle. It's done. Test over. Right? Unless I walk backwards. Moonwalking to the... وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Allah says, bear glad tidings to those who are patient. Okay, that's it. I just have to be patient. But I have to practice patience. Patience just doesn't come like that. Right, Brother Anwar? Don't get me wrong. According to some of the science that we cited yesterday, right, epigenetics can affect your level of patience. Sure, you might have a predisposition to be a little more patient, which is very good. But Allah will test you in something else. Why? Because وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ. You know what He says? I swear, waw al-qasam, wa, not and, wa, I swear, la, lam al-tawkid, for sure. نَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ, noon tawkid. Another tool of emphasis. Not نَبْلُوَنَّكَ, نَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ, plural. Hate to break it to you. We're all being tested. And with what? With things that cause us to be emotional. بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ. What's khawf? What's fear? Is fear an emotion? Yes. بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ. Hunger. When you feel hungry, can you hold hunger? Can you strangle hunger? No, it's an emotion. وَنَقْصٍ, and the deficiency. مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. These are physical things that we're going to suffer from, that are going to cause us to feel that fear, to feel that hunger, to feel that pain. But you know, Allah says it's easy. Here's the formula. You're going to suffer from all this stuff. Add to all this stuff, let's call it X, plus sabr, a big sad, or an S, right? So X plus S equals what? Success. Passing grade. No, thriving, not just surviving. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Those who, when faced with a calamity, say, surely we are from Allah and to He we shall return. So what's He telling us? He's saying, look, keep the end in mind. You're returning to me, and all these faculties that you're using, right? You need to make sure you build up your neuronal pathways so that you can unhijack yourself from your amygdala. Right? And get on with it. Be patient. Realize that all you need is patience. That's all it is. It's a simple formula. But how are you going to be patient? We're going to ask, Allah, tell me. Okay, listen, I'm here listening. Tell me. It's an open book. How am I supposed to be patient? You know what He says to me? Beautifully, he says, just remember that you are from Allah and to He we shall return. It's that simple. الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. What happens when I do that? أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. Allah describes this success. He says, those are the ones who Allah praises. And Allah bestows His mercy upon them. And those are the ones that Allah calls the rightfully guided. Those are the true warriors. I ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us of the righteously guided. I ask that Allah gives us patience, inshaAllah, in our trials. Everything is a trial. Every decision is a trial. Every decision, believe me. I ask that Allah strengthens us all so that we can make it through these trials, so that we can meet each other in heaven, right? All under the label of Al-Muhtadeen, following Imam Al-Hujjah, salamullahi alayhi, welcomed by Sayyida Fatima and Ahl al-Bayt alayhim afdal as-salatu was-salam. Hada walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين والفاتحة على أرواح المرحومين ولتعجيل ولي الله فرج ولي الله على الأرضين مسبوقة مشفوعة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. أحسن الله عليكم. You guys all seem like I tased you or something.
Thank you, Sheikhna, for that wonderful lecture. Because of the rain, we won't be doing the bonfire afterwards, but we do have, we're going to be having a discussion in the dining hall, so we hope you guys can stick around for that. And then again, if you are interested in volunteering or going to the retreat, please see the MYC table in the hallway. And we're selling hot dogs. Okay. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.